Anime finds a way to tell stories the likes of which you would never expect to experience, let alone them actually be good. I'm not talking about your isekai phase, you know, that time I was transported to another world as a toilet, now all the girls are sitting on my face and I kind of like it. No, because that's a thing that might or might not exist, okay? So anime is always finding ways to amaze you. Anime just amazed me. Really glad I got back into doing anime analysis stuff because A, I'm pretty damn good at it. And B, I'm able to talk about stuff that I love, which is why I started doing YouTube originally. So leave a like, subscribe, all that jazz. Today I want to talk about how anime just created the best ever iteration of Jack the Ripper. Record of Ragnarok Season 2 just dropped on Netflix, and I love this show. I know a lot of people complain about the clunky animation, the clanky, the clunkety, the clinkety, the CG, the garbage shots, all that fun jazz, and I do agree when it comes to Zeus versus Adam, there was too much of that. That said, what a fantastic watch! Oh my god! For those of you that are unaware and uninitiated, let me introduce you to the world of Record of Ragnarok just for a brief minute so that this video can actually make sense to you. Humanity is cringe, thus decreed the gods. Which gods do you think? Well, all the gods are kind of homies, alright? You got the Greek gods, the freaking Norse gods, you got Hindu gods, all the gods. They're all up there drinking tea together, chilling, and they're like, alright, humanity, cringe, we're wiping them out. The Valkyries are like, bro, we are the defendants of humanity, so I, Saul Goodman, lawyer here, have a claim to make. Let's Ragnarok it. Ragnarok, as we know in Norse mythology, it's basically the end of the world. Ragnarok in Records of Ragnarok, on the other hand, is a tournament arc because it's a goddamn anime. Oh my god. It is humans versus gods in a clash royale, where if the humans win, humanity continues. And if the gods win, all of humanity gets wiped out. So yes, the entire premise of the entire story is just a huge tournament, which is the most anime thing of all time. However, you know what else is the most anime thing of all time? Taking characters that you didn't really care about or that were relatively uninteresting to you and make them some of the most fascinating, heart-wrenching, tragic characters you've ever seen in your life. So the humans are selecting different humans from throughout history to go against the gods, and the gods are selecting different gods to face the humans on their side, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't actually want to spoil any of the fight scenes because you should definitely watch it for yourself and you'll enjoy, because each fight is like 5 episodes long, full and rich with backstories on both sides, epic twists and turns all around, just a dynamic fight. Every single fight is different from the last, with so much heart on the human side and so much soul, surprisingly, even on the god side, that every single fight ends up in an emotional crescendo. Okay, this isn't a review on Records of Ragnarok, this is just basically setting up the playing field so I could introduce you to an overpowered character done right. Because every single character in this show is an overpowered character. They just took the strongest characters of humanity's history, all right, to go up against basically the strongest of the gods, with the absolute best fight being Adam, you know, first dude, versus Zeus, you know, the godfather of the cosmos, which will forever be one of my favorite fights in the history of anime. And yes, I will be doing an OP done right on Adam later. But first, I just watched Season 2 because Season 2 just dropped. We just had Jack the Ripper versus Hercules. So, who do the Valkyries choose to fight on the behalf of humanity? Well, if you look at most of their choices, there are these noble fighters. Adam, a man fighting for humanity because what father doesn't fight for the lives of his children? Which just all of humanity collectively started crying when they heard that speech. Like, goddamn, some of the greatest fighters, the greatest warriors, the most noble creatures that will risk everything for humanity. And they selected Jack the Ripper to go against Hercules. Jack the Ripper, we selected like the strongest samurai in history. They selected the strongest sumo wrestler in history. They picked a serial killer. This is the guy that humanity is, their hopes and dreams are gonna be hanging on, a serial killer. Immediately, I love this premise so much. In history, we don't know anything really about Jack the Ripper. He's this dude that hasn't really been caught. There are many different novels and stuff written about him, many different detective stories, many different fictional stories about how he gets caught versus how he doesn't get caught, many different times where we actually learn about his perspectives, how Sherlock Holmes and Jack the Ripper tussle at some point, who knows, in this fictional universe, which is extra ironic because Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the writer of Sherlock Holmes, is sitting there in the stands being like, bro, even my fake detective couldn't catch this serial killer. But humanity is just disgusted because Hercules is a genuinely good guy. Before getting into the fight, I need to explain the morals and motives of the different characters so I can really get into why A, Jack the Ripper is overpowered done right, and B, why he's the best ever iteration of Jack the Ripper. So Jack the Ripper, as far as people know, he's a serial killer. He's a guy that murdered prostitutes and others in London, and he was a sleazeball, disgusting human being, and no one really knows that much because he was, well, really good at his job and didn't really get caught. god. And Hercules, well, everyone knows Hercules from Zero to Hero, baby. This man spent his entire life actually fighting for humans. Ironic that he's on the god side and that Jack the Ripper, a guy that always killed humans, is on the human side. Of course, anime likes to, you know, explore the boundaries of reality. They like to make its own fictional backstories for characters, because at the end of the day, these are characters in an anime. This isn't like some historical piece, even though it's all based in history to some extent. So before I talk about Jack the Ripper, we have to know who he's fighting. Who is this Hercules guy? Because we know Hercules is someone fighting for humanity's sake throughout his entire life. And his mindset in this story is that, well, he is one of the gods, and he accepted the role of being a god, because as we know, well, in mythology, he's a demigod. In this story, he was born as a human. He drank the ambrosia of the gods, which gave him powers, and Zeus decided to just accept him into the council of gods. Whatever, same concept. Basically, this dude was always putting his life on the line for the sake of humanity. He was the most noble and heroic fighter in the history of divinity. And this dude is fighting on behalf of the gods because that's his duty as a god. And when he wins, and when the gods win, he is going to do his best to plead to the other gods to not destroy humanity. He's a glorious man, a man that even humanity rooted for in this fight against the absolute most decrepit. O London town, where the shadows loom and terrors lurk in every room, here doth our tale unfold its pages of Jack the Ripper, greatest of outrages. This absolute mad lad had a tragic backstory. You actually start to feel for this psycho savage murderer, Jack the Ripper. With blood-stained hands, he took the night, and from the streets he racked its plight. In alleyways he wrought his crime. With brutal grace he took its time. This man has some crazy Sharingan eyeball magic power because it's anime and whatever, and he sees people's emotions. As someone that had a tragic childhood and saw people's emotions, he liked fear. He thought fear was beautiful. His deeds a mystery most profound, with victims fell and justice unbound. His name a whisper on the breeze, a legend born to send men to their knees. In such a stylized motion, the way he captures the audience's attention with the most fantastic orchestral soundtrack, he eventually was forced to kill his own mother because his mother fell in love with some dude that promised her a life. The dude didn't obviously follow up on his promise because, you know, she's a whore. She gets all sad, and she realizes that she doesn't care. It's his fault that this mystery man that fell in love with her allegedly didn't end up marrying her. He is the root of her bane. And the eye that until now witnessed love and saw love in his mother, at this point he saw disgust, which was gross. And disgust became fear as he slowly murdered his own mother. That's when he saw fear. And that is what in his young mind planted the seeds that fear is beautiful. He lived a life where people could fear him instead of him needing to fear everyone around him. Fear was even more beautiful to him than love, because the love that he thought his mother had for him turned out fake. Fear is real. Fear is genuine. Fear is something you can trust. So he went from person to person, from alley to alley, becoming the most infamous serial killer known to mankind, murdering originally the lover that ditched his mother, and then onward to just see and experience fear in everywhere, because this world wasn't fair to him. The only thing that is fair and honest is pure, unadulterated fear. And though he vanished in the night, his legacy endures, a source of fright. In stories told and songs sung low, Jack the Ripper's name shall ever grow. And here he stands today, fighting for the sake of humanity against a god whose morals are so upright and righteous. No matter how close Hercules comes to losing the fight, he never even once experiences the slightest bit of fear. Jack the Ripper has character development post-mortem. He starts to see that there is something. There is a seeking justice, and that's even more beautiful than fear is. That's something that's even more honest. The fact that you have a character like this that could become such a rich backstory off a borderline folklore personality, that different stories are coming up to him, to the point that this disgusting man, this bane of humanity's existence, becomes what humanity needs to rely on at the darkest hour, is tragically beautiful in a really, really weird way. So now let me describe the fight a little bit to you guys. And I just can't express enough how cool it is that every line that Jack the Ripper actually says sounds like it comes out of some Shakespearean novel. The entire battleground changes into London cityscape, where Jack, you know, did most of his murders. Every one of the heroes on the human side side that ends up fighting on behalf of humanity, they get some magic weapon. A Valkyrie becomes a magic divine weapon to be on their side because, well, to be honest, you can't hurt a god with normal mortal things. So you can only hurt a god with a divine weapon, so each human gets some divine weapon. Whether the divine weapon is brass knuckles or it's a cool sword, whatever it is. Anyway, Jack the Ripper walks out here with this massive pair of scissors. It's like you're watching Akame ga Kill. This comedically large scissors, and you're like, all right, this is anime. Of course, anime Jack the Ripper is using these cringe-sized scissors. The fight starts, and he immediately runs away into an alley. Hercules is like, bro, I am the most noble guy. I would fight on the side of humanity in the god's court at the end of the day. I have to fight this cringe? Meanwhile, the Valkyries, who are like the half-brothers, sort of Hercules, they love this man. They feel so bad that the hero they've chosen is the most disgusting person going up against the most noble god. It's a battle of ambiguous morality, and it is so freaking cool to see the dichotomy of humans' worst versus God's most righteous. But at the end of the day, only one of them fought on the side of justice. He follows him where he's just having tea. He offers tea to Hercules. Hercules takes a few steps forward. He's not into tea, but he's not gonna sneak attack. He's a righteous, holy warrior. All of a sudden, there was a booby trap. A bunch of knives and shiz fell down on Hercules, but of course, they weren't magic weapons. They weren't divine weapons like his scissors. And, well, you know, they bounce off of Hercules because they don't do nothing on him. Hercules is like, listen, you're not going to beat me with a booby trap, bro. I have slayed the Nemean lion. I've defeated a Hydra. I fought Hades. By the way, I might do an analysis on why Hades from the Hercules animated movie is one of the greatest villains of all time, but that is not for today. Hercules shatters Jack's scissors. The legendary epic item. The only thing that can actually slay a god, but Hercules is so mighty. He shatters Jack the Ripper's scissors. Bro, what is this man gonna do against a god now? He is backed into a corner. He pulls out some knives to throw at him again. He's like, bro, please, you already threw knives at me. Like, what do you this ain't gonna do nothing. And the knives pierce his skin. It's like an actual Dio moment from JoJo's. The knives pierce a god's skin. Breathtaking. The entire audience, which by the way is the entirety of humanity, plus the entirety of the divine realms, catch their breath. Hercules, the most righteous, versus the most scummy human. And this guy's knives pierce a divine body. He's like baffled. He shattered his divine weapon. Jack the Ripper says, oh, I didn't tell you earlier that my scissors were my divine weapon. You just assumed that because it's this big fat looking anime cringe weapon. And obviously you assumed that. My weapon is actually this satchel. And he points at this little fanny pack on his booty. And he's like, this little satchel here can produce endless knives. And these knives can kill a god. And he starts throwing around knives. Hercules is blocking most of them. Some actually scratch him and stuff. Hercules is unfaltering. He is just walking towards him. This indomitable war god walking up to Jack the Ripper, this sleazeball. And of course, you know, in typical anime fashion, the knives put up strings everywhere and they're bouncing off everywhere. Like, all these cool tricks actually fooled Hercules, okay? Hercules was completely flabbergasted, but it didn't matter. This man has an indomitable spirit, an indomitable heart, and he is an indomitable god. And he just walks up to Jack, closing the distance. No matter what hits his body and his torso, he is going to win this fight in the most upright, righteous, and fair manner. Jack keeps running. How can he face an indomitable god? Underhanded methods won't work on this dude. He only has one trick, this endless bag of knives. And if knives aren't gonna pierce this man's spirit, then nothing will. Jack has like these grappling hooks. He's flying around. He has all these crazy Shakespearean quotes. He's having a good time. But Hercules is just freaking awesome and inspiring. The guy that hates good guys, okay? I watch anime rooting for the bad guys every single time. And I'll admit I was rooting for Jack the Ripper because I just love those conniving bastard archetypes. But I felt sad that I was rooting against Hercules. Do you comprehend what I'm saying? Eventually, you know, it's not looking good for Jack. He climbs the Big Ben. Hercules is an absolute hero with deeds, a legend most divine, with monsters fell and glory thine, a name, a song on every tongue, a hero born to conquer all that's wrong. As he walks forward, Jack the Ripper pulls the face off the Big Ben, the clock face, and hurls it at him. And it's like, bro, didn't you learn from like the booby trap right in the beginning? It's not a divine weapon. Divine weapons are the only things that could pierce a god. Hercules just picks up his hand to knock the clock face away, and it slices his hand off. Again, silence in the arena. What just happened? Yeah, he lied. He doesn't have an endless bag of knives. He just has a fanny pack with a lot of knives in it. His actual noble, heroic spirit weapon are his gloves that everything he touches becomes a god-slaying weapon. This, again, pays such good homage to the way that Jack the Ripper killed in Legends. The fact that this man went around and murdered people in the most gruesome ways imaginable, with different weapons, different techniques, different styles. That's why the police were never able to catch this guy, because he was so unpredictable. And he keeps that air of unpredictability in the most fantastic and dramatic scene ever, in a face-to-face fight with a one-handed god. Now, with only one hand, Hercules is having a hard time having a fair fight with Jack. Everything Jack touches becomes a weapon that could kill Hercules, and he's been running around the cityscape for the last hour. He's been touching everything in the city, wherever he goes. At one point, he lets Hercules hit him so that he could smash into a building. He slides down the side of the building and impales himself on a spike on a fence. As Hercules keeps going, he set it and rigged it in a way that the building would fall on Hercules, and the building itself is a god-slaying weapon. He then gets into closer combat with Hercules, but he's bleeding out and time is tough, so he uses the fence that impaled him as a weapon against Hercules too. But of course, that's not enough either, because Hercules is an absolute Giga Chad. Eventually, Jack is all out of weapons. He's covered in blood, and still, Hercules, once again, walks up to him in a final fight. He's using some crazy labor technique thingy that puts him at 4 billion% of his power, but it's eating away at him. Jack just pushes his hands that are covered in blood through Hercules' heart. His blood on his gloves became the final divine weapon to kill Hercules. Every part of the fight was planned from the very beginning. As he wins, and humanity is one step closer to its survival, because that's what this whole tournament is about. There is no one in humanity that can actually cheer. We no longer know what we're rooting for, what morality is, who the good guys and who the bad guys are. But even in his final moments, Hercules changed Jack for the future. Hercules remained a pillar of justice. That is even more beautiful in the eyes of Jack. Jack the Ripper is a character that was completely discarded by the world. He had the worst luck in the worst situation, with the worst possible surroundings at every freaking moment of his life. All of that contributed to the monster that he ended up becoming. Someone who only wanted to experience a world that was fair and honest. Lied to by his mother, lied to by shopkeepers, lied to wherever he turned. No more. A world that feared him is a world that is honest. So he became the most renowned psychopath serial killer in human history, and he claimed his place as one of the coolest anime characters I have seen in a long time. So as he wins the fight and heads back to humanity, humanity hates him. They throw things at him. He is still a monster in their eyes, even though he potentially saved a lot of them. Are they ungrateful? Well, I don't know. Hercules was an amazing person. He was someone that could have maybe helped them, even though probably not. Hercules was naive, and he thought that everything could be changed through straightforward justice and righteousness. Hercules is wrong, and Jack the Ripper gets to continue walking forward into a much more honest world. Actual goosebumps. What a fantastic story. What an amazing character. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, please subscribe. Please let me know future videos you want me to make. I will definitely be making one on Adam, and probably one on Buddha when Season 3 drops from Records of Ragnarok. I also really want to do one on Poseidon, and I really want to do one on Shiva, because they're also great characters. Records of Ragnarok turned out to be a fantastic story, and I am so happy that it's getting this adaptation. I would have never experienced it if not for this. Let me know future OP analysis you want to see. Let me know if you liked this video, because I really worked on it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like, damn, what a good video I made. I pat myself on the back. That's me. That's me, a man of ego and honesty. Hell yeah. But I'm sure you wouldn't have me any other way. Stay weird, fam.